I fixed it. I mean, I really fixed it. Since this wasn't under warranty, I probably didn't register it when I had to years ago, I decided to repair it myself. From the way it was acting, it was certainly a mechanical issue and not something electrical, which made it easier for me to repair. I filmed the whole repair process, but since I wasn't perfectly at ease with the intricacies of this machine, there was an awful lot of awkward fumbling. And I put it back on the workbench, moved the camera down, put a bit more light, so you'll be seeing some of the old footage interspersed with the new footage. And I found out some stuff, and I warn you about some of the things that you might come across as you open up the case, as you split it open, and springs and ball bearings start flying out. But I fixed it, and you can too. This is Rigid's R8832 jigsaw, dating back to maybe 4 or 5 years. But first thing, slip out this housing assembly clip, which is listed at $21.20 on Rigid's website, whereas most other small parts on this jigsaw are listed at...
And the clip falls into the jigsaw's case, of course.
77 cents or 80 cents. So don't lose it. Here, take a good look at it. For free. People probably have to line up for hours and pay exorbitant entry fees to see this clip. If you have access to a safe, a lockbox, or a safety deposit box, that's where you should store this very small, thin clip, which must be made from some sort of extremely rare mineral. $21, my ass! The two halves of the case are held together by 13 Torx T20 screws, all the same size and length. The top half of the case, the one with the screws, can easily be removed at this point. I'm also removing the base assembly. This switch's only purpose is to activate the small LED light, which illuminates your work at the front of the saw. Also noteworthy is the speed control dial's intricate innards. It has a spring and what I think was a ball bearing. More on that later. Remove the assembly roller and the pin before it falls out at the worst possible moment. This small compression spring fits inside the barrel-shaped part called the sleeve saw bar. This next spring is listed as a resilient spring and will not fly off, though you do have to disconnect it from the die-cast blade release lever, because next thing you'll need is to lift the entire jiggy and motor assembly to remove the lever. Here's a little magic trick. See the compression spring right here? Well, now you don't. But I found the spring again. Slide this pin out and a major portion of the jiggulator can be removed. That's where the flying spring fits in. The gear is held in place by a retaining ring over a washer. The only circlip pliers I have that fit into such a small ring are these old ones that I have to pull the handles apart, but it works. And the tips of the pliers remain wedged in the circlip. I can now pull out the gear and this heavy block balance, actually composed of 2 heavy steel plates. And then the plate drive. The first time I took this tool apart, this is about where I tested the motor, and it worked perfectly, still does. That having been said and done, I'm simply going to reassemble the parts of the jigsaw while pointing out a few more traps and dangers along the way. The gear's backside has one extruding portion which needs to fit inside the block balance and another which is housed inside the opening of the plate drive. That's the only way you'll be able to fit the washer and circlip back into the shaft to keep the gear in place. Not that it really matters at this time. You'll see soon enough. I kept poking around and saw that this part right here, the bushing, had slipped out of place and it was interfering with the bar saw's movement. But nothing was broken. While attempting to reinstall the jigglator, my hand brushed up against the speed control dial and the spring and ball bearing just took off, which is a good thing because that's one of the things I wanted to discuss. The small spring fits into this cavity. Since I'd previously lost the ball bearing, though it doesn't really look like a ball bearing in the parts diagram, I went looking for what I had on hand. BBs for an air rifle and steel balls which I pulled from cracked bearings. I couldn't find an exact match, so I drilled out a slightly larger hole for the bearing I did have. The spring and ball give the dial that positive feedback you feel as you're rolling it with your thumb and helps to gently lock the dial into position. And a bit of tape could help keep the dial from popping out again. Repositioning the internal assembly is tricky, but so satisfying when it slides in correctly. You'll have a few indicators letting you know if everything has dropped deep enough. Right here, I can see the sleeve saw bar isn't in the right position. Try to drop the spring back in and it'll just pop back out. With some jiggling and gentle prodding, the assembly eventually settles in. You might still need to pull it out slightly to slide the spring into position. Check the light switch, the trigger, and slide the die cast blade release lever back into place. Then the spring extension. The assembly roller and pin go in next. The jigsaw's base slips into position, but there are a few things to watch out for. First, that spacer needs to fit exactly into a notch on each side of the case. And the bolt's head has to align perfectly so that it's sandwiched between the shells. Make sure no wires are pinched and that the control board is nested in its grooves. Triggers and dials need to align perfectly with the other half, as do the pins and the guard. The guard is that flimsy looking wire contraption clipped just in front of the blade. Everything's aligned. Put a few screws to keep the two halves together. And it's sort of okay, right? There's some weird noise going on. All the screws are in, and possibly that's as good as it'll get. Looking for the other screws, I find this, the circlip, which should be holding the gear in place. Open it up again. Insert the circlip. And reassemble. Last but not least, that precious $21.20 metal clip. I'm pleasantly surprised at how repairable this turned out to be, and I'm pleasantly surprised that I actually repaired it. But Rigid has made this repairable by design. Torque screws, fairly standard, no security screws or some weird configuration, all the same length, and all the diagrams are online. plus the parts lists. Well designed. I would have to say, yay, orange plastic.